So for today's paddle, Tiel, my little Yorkshire Terrier, and I took our Primo kayak from Crescent Kayaks out around the island. And it was really weird because until I left the house, I still hadn't really decided where I wanted to launch from. But for some reason, the truck just went to the island, and we made a grave mistake. We forgot our snacks in the truck. So, oh well. So I'll show you. This is around the island. If you stay in close, tucked around the sides of the island, it's about 6 miles. But this trip, I made a little detour, and at the end of the island, which actually is a peninsula. I'll tell you that story if you want. And I went across, so I added on a couple of miles, which was probably really dumb because I didn't have any snacks for me or Teal. So we were mighty hungry at the end of this, but we're okay. We survived to tell the tale, obviously, and Teal has her tale to tell the tale. Okay. Here's the launch site, and it's really nice. It's free to just park safely in London Bridge Park, I think it's called, and then I just go across a couple of sidewalks and then can put it right into the water and launch from there. It's pretty nice. And then the park itself, you can see here, is near London Bridge, but we don't get to the bridge until the end of our ride. So this is Tuesday morning, about maybe 5:30 at this point, I don't know. And this little cove, it goes pretty far back, and this is surrounded, although you can't even see it, it's actually surrounded by all kinds of places to camp, to stay, to hike, whatever. It's really, really popular area, yet it looks like there's nothing around. That's pretty crazy. I mean, I can't even see a power pole, right? So it's kind of nice how even right in the heart of the city or town, whatever you want to call it, Havasu, there's this place you can go and early morning, and there's nobody around, and it's nice and calm. And the forecast for today, it was supposed to be winds from 5 to 10 and gusts a little higher, but when I went out on the beginning of the 3-hour ride, it was all like this, nice and calm. I have a couple of times come out just to this spot to fish instead of paddle. And for some reason, I still think about it, I can't figure it out. I was back here, nice and calm, casting out, and Teal was doing laps around the boat, and she kept jumping off and going for swims. I have no idea to this day why she did that on that particular day. She hasn't done it since. I'm baffled. But so she kept swimming, and I thought, okay, maybe she needs to get off or whatever. She's anxious, and I took her to shore, and she was fine. And we came back, and we sat for a little bit. And she jumped off and wanted to swim. So whatever. It's the mysteries of Teal. She's a very unique little girl, and she was crying a little bit at the beginning of the trip. I brought her to shore, see if she needed anything, but she was fine. So whatever. I'm sure for part of it she was hungry, because I was too, but for the most part, Teal is kayak dog number 1. She really does the best and seems to love it the most. So I wanted to include this little cove because I think it's amazing how it's so nice and you can't even see all the people and places around. So coming around one of the many little corners on the island, if there's corners on an island. This is a usually deserted beach area this time of day. I think it's only hike-in access or even boat-in access. I'm not really sure. I've never actually seen anybody here. And here we go. Little piece of trash. Always look out for that stuff. I usually take a break here as well. Have a little bit of coffee, which I'm really glad I had. I had iced coffee with a whole cup of Fairlife milk. So that was kind of my only nutritional source since I forgot my snack. So that was very good to have. It saved me, I think. So I was plenty hungry at the end of this. So in the distance there, that's like a row of, I don't know, some sort of park. Like, I don't know if anybody actually lives there year round or like they must be rentals, I guess. But they're kind of all uniform, and there's only one access, well, two accesses to the water. There's a little ramp there too. I wouldn't mind checking that place out from the other side, but still nice, calm waters. So here's coming up on a little water access area. I think that's a different one though. I'm not sure if those are all the same or different or private or whatever, because I've only seen them from this side. So we're kind of here. This is a bigger area, and I have seen RVs kind of parked just up at the top of that, like where that railing is. So I still think that's not like not boat launch, but just a place for them to get access to the water. So that's always the trick, right? When you have the great view, but a few with access to the water. That's very nice. So see, so right there's a staircase going down, right in the middle of all those places. I guess there's a little walkway right in front of all that, but still not great access. And I wouldn't want to drag my kayak down those stairs or go over. I don't know. I like the way I have it. I just drive a couple miles to the lake from my house and launch my kayak wherever, since I have the little cart for it. But it is awfully nice to have a deck right there, right on the water. But that's also a pretty exposed area and lots of traffic and noise and stuff, I would think. I'm good with paddling by it. Don't really have to live there. So here we're getting closer to the end of the island that's really a peninsula. And if you look up at the narrower of those two little towers, I guess the one that's not the lighthouse, the one that's like a light pole or something, the very, very top there is a birdie, a turkey vulture. And I like turkey vultures. And they look so much like eagles from far away, but they're not. As soon as you see their wings and all, you know they're not. Plus eagles are golden eagles are way bigger. So anyway, here I had to pull out the camera, so I'll show you the video I got of this guy. So this side of the island has got all kinds of these little kind of, I guess they're kind of half marinas or whatever for various rental or homes or whatever's there. I really don't know. This one looks very much more well used, and there's some stuff down on the beach. Better stairs. Yeah, okay, I'd take this one over the other one so far. And as usual, picking up some trash on the lake. You know, if every one of these little pieces of trash that I caught were instead like a fish that were, I don't know, what, over 18 inches, I bet you the views on my videos would probably be, what, about 1,000 times more than picking up a piece of trash on the lake. Yeah, such is life. So out about here is almost to the very end of the island that's really a peninsula, and coming up on site 6, which is sort of at the end pretty much, I think. I really don't know, I haven't measured it exactly which is the furthest out. Anyway, here's where I start looking over this side, and there's this certain, I just decide that, okay, well that's somewhere I want to be. So I start looking at this side and the other side and figuring out landmarks and thinking about how I'm going to change my route. So here, instead of going around the island like I initially planned, though had been undecided all this time, and even knowing I didn't have my snacks, I decided to go ahead and go for it. I have my sights set on one of those little points out there, and so we go across the lake at the narrowest point around this area. I think it was from there, this was a half a mile, if I remember right. So you can't really see in this angle, but that little point right there sort of has a whitish cast to it, and that's what caught my eye, so I decided to head for that particular point. So anyway, it's kind of like a point to a couple of nice little coves. So Tiel and I went ahead and tucked into here and went to a nice little beach and took a little swim break. And Teal's very good at swim breaks too. She has no issues with walking right into the water with me and hanging around where I'm swimming. She just jumps on me, stays up in my life vest, and we can float around. So we're back on the boat and spy something that looks sort of weird, and as I get closer I realize it's actually one of the bags that a group puts up that encouraging people to put their trash in the bag instead of everywhere else. So it's kind of weird that this bag ended up in the water, but it was knotted, it seemed, around a branch in the water and sealed, and I couldn't pull it from the branch without tearing the bag. And I thought, okay, I don't know how long it's been here, and the thought of something that's been sealed up in that bag and underwater just kind of grossed me out. I mean, I could have pulled up my knife and cut it off, but I kind of decided, you know what, I'm gonna let this one go. I just got kind of creeped out because a sealed bag, and just, I don't know, I got creeped out, so I went ahead and let it go because I wanted to go and scare the seagulls. Morning, guys. So, see how we're coming up on that point ahead that's sort of like this flat, rocky type of end to it? This reminded me, one of the other times that we're on this side of the lake, way back when I was kayaking around with my dad, we were going past a kind of an edge like this, very similar, a little bit lower maybe, and like this big old chunk of it, like the top 3 feet back, I don't know, whatever, maybe a couple of feet, just a big old chunk, just poof, came right down and plopped into the water. I don't know, maybe about 10 feet from us. Very crazy. We wigged us out. We both looked at each other like, whoa. So I always, whenever I see that they look like that, I always think of that when big old piece came down right when we were going by. Pretty creepy. So we pretty much followed the shore in and out of a bunch of these coves here across the way. And when I saw, do you see the tree up there? When I saw that, I kind of had to stop because it just looked like a photo moment. So got a pretty decent shot right here. And I think I took a few. We'll see what I got to show and share and show and all that. Good shot right there, Tiel. Still always think it's so cool catching the fish jump right in front of me. So we had been going in and out of the coves, but this one I just went straight across because we were getting up towards 4 miles, which would make me the 8-mile round trip. And I decided that this point with a little lighthouse on it would be a good place to go across. And at this time, I was still debating if I was going to go across, backtrack the same way I came, or just go ahead and go around the other side of the island. Because I'd sort of gone around the island that's really a peninsula and down, so if I went back straight across, I think it would end up being a little bit shorter. So I went ahead and went for this little point at which I decided to go ahead and cross the lake again. And just to note, right by that lighthouse, it doesn't show up on the GoPro, but there was a sign about that, and there was like this weird buoy too that said like entry prohibited, but it was one buoy and I wasn't sure exactly what it was blocking off, but I don't know, because then there was a sign, I guess you can't beach there, whatever, but it was confusing. I thought it was like an errant buoy, like it floated away or something, but with the sign, or maybe there's buoys missing. But whatever. So I thought that was strange. I think that's an errant buoy. Tribal man. Go straight shot. So we made it back, and as it got to the point here, I did a little check on my. I use this program called Paddle that checks out my distance and all that. So I wanted to see where I was at and how far we come and all that. So you can see here, I'm sort of not following along the shoreline like I usually do. I'm sort of going more point to point to sort of cut my travel time since I'm already up on the mileage, and I'm thinking about the snacks I left back at the truck. Anyway, so I'm a little further out, and you see there's a car right there, right next to the water. On this side of the island, there's a bunch of cool places you can go, and you can go off-road and take your car right down to the water. And now, watch, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, and watch the water towards the shore, right ahead of the kayak on my, I guess it'd be on my right side since we're POV here, right? So I think I picked it up with my eye before the GoPro, but it sort of wigged me out because it was something different than I'm usually seeing, so we'll just let you look at it. Morning. Doing all right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Great, that's a long swim. How long? How far?
I know, but the water's so nice.
Yeah.
So, and I got these.
Oh, there you go. Awesome.
That makes it all good.
Have fun.
Oh, you too.
Take care. You couldn't see on the GoPro, but she had flippers on as well, so she was totally cool. But it really, I couldn't figure out what it was. At first I'm like, just maybe something floating in the water. Then I thought maybe some sort of bird, but then it was moving strangely. And then at one point she put her hand up, and I finally realized it was somebody swimming. But it was a little creepy, but also pretty cool. And as I was paddling away, though, of course I'm thinking, man, it took me a while to focus in on her. And I think all the jet skis around. Unfortunately, not right now, so she's fine. But yeah, that's kind of something you can only do in, I think, in times like this when the lake's a lot quieter. So coming up here on the last point, and here you can kind of see the channel for London Bridge. So I took out my binos because I'm always curious exactly what's what from this distance and figuring out all the angles and all that. Couldn't really see that much though. These are not very powerful binos, but it was a little practice to see holding them right and trying to see anything from the distance anyway. Figuring out my route home, right? Don't worry, I'm not going to pull out the compass. So this is sort of like the last point to point where I'm a little further from the shore. And you can kind of see on the water, it's not quite glass anymore. We're getting some movement, a little bit of wind ripples. And right, I think you can kind of see them. You're going to see like bigger swells, not really boat chop, but like big on swells. And I think those are from the ferry. There's a ferry that starts near the London Bridge Village and goes across to the casino on the California side of the lake. So I think we're seeing swells from that ferry. It's kind of fun. This is kind of like also the start where we start seeing a little bit of rougher waters. So you can see more ripples on the water, the wind's starting to pick up. That point straight ahead, that's one side of Crazy Horse Campground, and the other corner of it is actually right at the Bridge Channel. So we're almost in the home stretch, right when the wind is picking up. And the interesting thing is I was debating about which side of the island to go back on, and had I gone on the other side, I would have seen much harsher weather, because it was sort of getting broke here by the land. So ended up choosing the right side of the island to go down for the wind that picked up. Water's looking pretty active now. Still cake though. So here's coming right into Bridgewater Channel, where the bridge is. One side, the white lighthouse, I think that's technically Lake Havasu State Park or something, I don't know, some park. It's huge, goes on forever. And then the other side is Crazy Horse. And you can see there's a guy on a paddleboard a little bit ahead of me. And you see the wind's still blowing, so I'm going right into it here, even though the water's a little bit smoother in the channel. So there's still plenty of wind blowing, so I'm going to try to like duck in as close as I can next to that one side or the other, but pretty much in this direction. It was coming at me pretty hard. Can't really see. I was looking at flags and stuff on the shore, and it was coming pretty good. I don't know miles per hour. I got to get myself one of those wind thingies, because I would like to know at what point that the lake shows white caps, or how the kayak behaves at the different speeds, because the Primo handles it so much better than my old kayak. I mean, my old kayak was like this bowl floating along the top of the water, and any wind would just drive it away. But the Primo sort of like digs in more, and it handles wind a lot better. Because on my old kayak, I'd have to like adjust my paddle like to one side or whatever, because the wind was just blowing on the kayak so much. But the Primo really handles a lot better. I'm just not sure exactly how much. So I gotta figure that all out, and you know, all the weather predictions they're not terribly good for this area, and then you never know, right? Because I'm out there 3 hours and things change, so I just kind of like to get a better idea of what I can and can't deal with. So anyway, there's a little paddle to the bridge, almost there. So yeah, you can see the banners and flags moving here, and you can hear the wind in the GoPro. Wanted to slow this part down anyway, because it's always cool paddling under the bridge, even though I've done it so many times before, but it's just neat. So I guess I can tell the story about the island that's really a peninsula. But you see how small the channel is. It's also very shallow. Very easy to see the bottom right now if you look down. You can't really see the GoPro though. But apparently when they wanted to put the bridge here, they dug out this peninsula. So it takes a lot of maintenance to keep it an island, and not because it wants to go back to being a peninsula. So it takes a lot of, they have to dredge it out a lot. And then they've also got weed machines, because it gets really weedy during certain seasons. They take really good care of it, I think. So I'm going to try to duck into the very end here. I was hoping that it'd be out of the wind, but it was not. So whatever. I wanted to guzzle down the last of my iced coffee and the last of my monster slash water electrolyte mix because I was hungry and tired. And I kind of like it right under the bridge. And if you don't know, there is a movie called Terror at London Bridge. And David Hasselhoff played a dude who saved us from Jack the Ripper. So if you ever see the Hoff, let him know. Thanks, man. So once we turned the corner, got a bit of a reprieve from all the wind. Pretty smooth sailing here for a bit. So as we're coming out the other end of the channel, you can see up ahead the water is getting rougher and rougher, feeling the wind more and more. But fortunately, right where you see that white line of buoys, that's right where I take my kayak out, so I'm not going to deal with that wind. And I think coming up here along the side, you can even see where my truck is parked. Let me see if I can highlight it if it shows up. I forget exactly where it appears. So water pretty rough right here, and as I was here I was just thinking, boy, I sure am glad I didn't come back on this side of the island. Would have been okay, but it probably would have been a lot trickier. It was a very nice ride back except for this last little bit. And normally what I do is I take the trailer off the back of my kayak and then I put it kind of on the shore, and I sort of just like back my kayak into the trailer and then just wheel it out from the water that way, just like kind of a rowboat. But today, given the active waters, I opted just to go ahead and take the kayak all the way out of the water and then put it on the trailer, which worked fine, not a big deal. Kind of have to make little adjustments with a slightly bigger kayak than I did before, and also because it's new and I want to take really good care of it so it'll last another 20 years. So I try to take every precaution I can to make sure this lasts for a long time. Oh, look at all that weight. I did it with Tiel on the boat, man. Yeah, that's right. Making the gains, lifting the Tiel. And we'll get the other end, and Tiel's just watching. She got nowhere else to be. I was so tired when I got off the boat, I didn't even... Usually I take a photo of my day's trash haul, but I just threw it away this time. I was too tired, because after that ride, not having my snacks and then getting the heat, yeah, I was done. We're just going to turn this off. Bye-bye.